Well, you've heard my views on this housing policy, which, as I've just said, may have captured the headlines, but I'm not sure it has captured votes. There are many reasons for that, as I've explained. If it has been pitched to young people, then many of them have already raided their superannuation account during coronavirus to pay for rent and groceries. But even if that weren't the case, the tax office has indicated that the average superannuation balance for a 30 to 34-year-old couple is $72,000. 40% of that is $29,000, which won't do much to help you buy a house in metropolitan Australia. I've argued often in the past that many young people are saddled for years with unconscionable levels of HECS debt. How they pay that off, pay rent and save for a deposit, I have no idea. But I do know this, with the very best intentions, their problems won't be solved by the Prime Minister's announcement on Sunday night. Greg Sheridan, who writes splendidly and with great clarity, has made some significant points on this issue, along with the other critical issue of national importance, national security. And Greg joins me. Greg, thank you for your time again. How did you interpret that announcement? It at least has focused on this critical issue of housing affordability.
Well, Alan, it's great to be with you. I mean, I got to say to you, Alan, this campaign has been a complete mystery to me. I can't understand why the Liberals have not wanted to fight on a single issue of substance and principle with the Labor Party. Now, at least this issue, it focuses on affordability of houses, but it also embodies a Liberal principle, which is that the superannuation money in your account belongs to you. It doesn't belong to a trade union-dominated superannuation fund. It doesn't belong to the government. And, you know, to confiscate 10% of your wages for your whole working life until you're 67 is an imposition on your freedom. And if you end up in retirement without a house, you're much more likely to experience poverty, whether you've got a couple of hundred grand in your super account or not.
So just taking that point up, should we have compulsory superannuation?
Well, you know, I'm betwixt and between on it, frankly, Alan. And honestly, I mean, I'm a great beneficiary of it. It's been terrific for me personally, but there are so many tax concessions now involved in it that you don't know that it really saves the budget a razoo at the end of the day. You know, you get so much concessional tax treatment, and it's so complicated. But if you are going to have it, I mean, a lot of countries, Singapore and a lot of other countries, allow you to use your super to buy a house. So there are only a few things you can do with your super. In Singapore, you can use it for a medical emergency. Well, we've got Medibank, I suppose, or Medicare rather. But I certainly think if you're going to have compulsory super, you ought to be able to use it at least once in your life.
Yeah, it does seem odd, doesn't it, Greg, that under compulsory super, you take money from the worker to put into super. Then the worker is told that he or she can take it out, but then they must put it back in if the home is sold. I mean, what do you make of that?
Well, I think that's very unfair and quite silly too, and very unliberal. It's against liberal principles. But so, in my opinion, the Prime Minister has been, when everything else has failed, he's thought, hello, why not try a liberal policy for a change and just see if that might work. Every form of appeasement, of wokeness and bipartisan, you know, he hasn't had a fight with the Labor Party about anything. He's just tried to neutralise everything. We're net zero too, we're woke too, you know. And then at the last minute, he says, hey, how about I try something which embodies individual choice? But I think it's silly to force somebody to put it back. Say you get $40,000 or $50,000 out of your combined super, you and your wife, and you make a bit of a profit on your first house, and you're not getting any money from mum and dad, and then you're going to sell your first house and use that equity to get a bigger house to accommodate your family, and that'll be a greater store of wealth for your future. Well, then you've got to pay the 50 grand back.
You don't have
plus, if you've had a 10 or 20% capital gain, so then you've got to pay 60 or 70 grand back. So that knocks a big hole in your equity for house number two. So that seems to me against liberal principles, against freedom of choice, against the idea that it's your money. And after all, if you think that you can do better than the flaming superannuation fund, why shouldn't you? I mean, why does big government, big superannuation funds get to boss you around?
Oh, unbelievable.